And there's that hard cut of music. Welcome to the BCM Podcast. I am Brad Swale. To my top right is Michael Searle. To my top left is Charles Blaine. All of our Twitter handles are in there. Our X handles are in our bio there. At Brad Swale, at MSearleATX, and at CJ Blaine 10. Follow us, like and subscribe to the podcast. Share it with your friends, family, relatives, strangers, homeless, whatever. Anybody, help us grow. Charles did it with his mom, and she is our favorite fan. Maybe your mom can be our next favorite fan. Who knows? But
they are called houseless, so we're not homeless. We don't like to use that phrase anymore.
It's actually called unhoused.
Unhoused. There you go. It's not
and you do not play their word games. Unhoused. That assumes that something was done to them to make them not have a home. That's a verb.
Wow.
Unhoused.
Well, you are a NIMBY, so that probably is what was done to them to not let them have a home. But anyway,
are there homeless people in Houston? I wonder. I don't know. So how's everyone doing?
I'm a little sick.
Oh no.
Like Oakley's and Monster Energy drink sick, or like sick like you have sinus infection?
Yeah, rock on. No, I have a sinus infection. No, it's not a sinus infection, but it's like a little congestion. I don't know what it is, but I'm not feeling too well.
Well, you look great, so at least there's that. All right. So, I mean, Michael, you're doing good?
Yeah, I'm just curious who CJ Blaine 1 through 9 are.
That's a great question, actually. Who are CJ Blaine 1 through 9?
They're my doppelgangers.
Well, there must be 10 other CJ Blaines before him, because there's also just CJ Blaine.
Sure.
It's true.
So,
yes.
All right. Well, today we have a guest. Do we have a video? Sometimes we do videos for guests. Do we have a video?
We don't have a video this time. No, we're just going to have to kind of, yeah.
Well, I'll just, his name is Brad Johnson. He is a senior reporter over at the Texan.news. They also have an app coming out, or it is out. I don't know. Let Brad talk about that. But the reason why Brad Johnson is on today, not only do we have primaries going on in Texas, and gosh darn, does he follow them more than anybody else? Michael and Charles felt like there just wasn't enough Brad on the show. So they wanted to bring on another one. There's an old saying that says, if one Brad is good, two Brads are better. So welcome to the show, Brad Johnson.
Thanks, welcome, Brad Johnson.
Well, it's weird. I might have mentioned this when I was on Brad's podcast a year ago or so, but growing up, there was like one other Brad. And now that I've come to Texas, there's so many Brads. It's just confusing.
I only know one Brad from my childhood, and I think he went by Bradley, so fuck that guy.
He was probably insufferable if he went by that.
He turned into a serial killer and a rapist, I think. So, not really, Charles. Come on.
I mean, okay. Sorry.
Is it Brad Lee or Bradford? Because I know both.
Are you?
It's actually Bradleyford. Yeah.
Bradford?
No, it's just Bradley.
Okay.
I know a Bradford.
Michael has never asked me that question, Brad, so I don't know if he'll ever know the answer. I won't tell him. He doesn't care about me. I'm starting to feel sad. But my intro is rather brief, Brad. God, this is going to be weird. Do you want to expand on it at all?
We're a statewide political media outlet, and we cover statewide political news. Been covering the Capitol for almost 5 years now, and yes, we just launched an app. So if you're a subscriber, you can download it if you're a subscriber or not, but you can read the content if you are subscribed. And I think we put out pretty good content, pretty good reporting. So there's my pitch. Is that good enough?
Well, let me add to it. I am a subscriber, and I've never regretted it. So other people should too.
Agree. They have some great stuff. And not to take away from Brad, but I do have to shout out my hometown hero, Holly Hansen. So because she's also great and she's Brad's colleague. But Brad, you are selling yourself short because you are, probably one of the best, if not the best reporters on energy and all those issues in Texas. The things that no one seems to understand, because I certainly don't seem to understand them until you write about them. So thank you very much for all that you do in that area as well.
Can I just ask something real quick before we really jump in here? Because it's going to get confusing for me and perhaps our guests.
It's not that confusing, really, that we have two Brads here.
I think it will. So can you just call me Swale today? That's fine.
Okay, Brad.
I don't know which one you're talking to. You bet.
If you haven't
so-
watched the show before, Brad Johnson, Charles and Swale have a little riff about every week where they argue with each other. It's very entertaining, and I keep score on who's right.
Usually it's me.
It's never been him.
Typically.
All right.
Oh,
so-
yeah, I'm sorry. Before we get started, Brad Swale, because you care probably more about this. Yimby Town is in your town next week. Are you going?
Let's say I left them a present.
Okay. Well, let's get started.
It's going to be a big surprise.
Good Lord.
Okay, let's get started. We all appreciate your reporting. We all appreciate your expertise, and so I think today we're going to talk about, we got primaries going on. I don't know if anybody's paying attention to what's going on in Travis County. It's all about the DA race, but there's a lot of primaries going on. I guess there's only one primary. Whatever the fuck, I don't know how to phrase it. But Michael and Charles, is there something specific about the primaries that you wanted to open the show with?
I mean, sure. Unless Michael has something, I got something. But I just kind of want to get Brad Johnson's initial lay of the land, because you have spent, I think a lot of people report on this stuff and talk about it, but they don't actually go places. And with the Brent Money, Jill Dutton race, you were there. I remember you were reporting, like boxes coming in with like 3 votes because you were the only one sitting there as they were bringing them in. So you've seen a lot of the stuff on the ground. And so I'm curious kind of just what your kind of general lay of the land is. And I think we know some of the overarching narratives about how people are feeling and stuff, but what are you seeing as you're out there talking to people and kind of going across the state?
Well, it's definitely the most contentious primary I've ever seen. You have these competing headwinds, the impeachment, Attorney General Paxton going on his revenge tour against that, Governor Greg Abbott's school choice crusade, those in close to 30 races at least, they're going directly against each other in some of these House primaries. Then you got Lieutenant Governor Patrick wading in, especially in opposition to the Speaker of the House. Speaker Dade Phelan is facing the toughest challenge he's had so far in elected office. From David Covey, you have a lot of that itself is kind of a proxy for the broader political fight over the direction of the GOP in Texas. And Phelan has been made, rightly or wrongly, different sides will disagree on that, but he's been made the boogeyman for all of the grievances, I guess they're broadly described as the grassroots in the Republican Party has. I don't know if that's entirely descriptive because there's a lot of disagreement in each of these factions, but there is a massive fight over the direction of the party right now. And because they control every part of the legislative process, every executive office in the state, it's one party control, and therefore that's where the fights happen. We see that during the legislature when policy's on the table, and we're seeing that in elections now.
Brad, let me ask you. So there's two. You say there's sort of two directions that things are going here. Two possible directions. What directions are those? Is it like MAGA versus neocon, or is it more specific to Texas?
I think it generally comes down to establishment versus those not in the establishment. Now, being in Texas, the establishment does not have the same connotation as it does, let's say, in DC. I'd say some would make that case. I think it's a bit more complicated than that. You've got someone like Briscoe Cain, who would be considered part of the establishment here, and he's very conservative, one of the most conservative members in terms of vote record every session. But he's facing a challenge. I think you could say maybe from the right, but not that far. It's mainly on his support for impeachment and being one of the members of the board of managers during that trial. There's just a lot of different fractures going on. And I think broadly it comes down to the legislature versus the party apparatus itself. And you see Matt Rinaldi out there, Texas GOP chair, endorsing against Speaker Phelan. But then you also have him more aligned with Dan Patrick. I wouldn't say there's two different directions, but there's a lot of different competing headwinds that are trying to jockey for an inch of ground here in this trench warfare.
Yeah, it's a power struggle for sure, but the lines are blurry to say the least. Hey, two questions real quick. I've been talking to a lot of people involved in the primaries, and some of them say to me that impeachment, nobody's talking about it in the field. Like, it's not an actual issue. So one, respond to that, and then the second is kind of a curveball. What are Democrats thinking of this? Have you, like, Democrat state house reps? Because it's pretty quiet over there outside of the theory race. And I'm just curious what kind of their perspective of it is, if you have any insight there.
So on the first part, impeachment is definitely an issue. I've seen people discuss it all over the place. I went to an HG33 forum. That's Justin Holland against Katrina Pearson and Dennis London. That was definitely an issue there, but I don't think it was the biggest one. I think we're starting to see, and you can see this with the messaging that a lot of these candidates, both the incumbents and the challengers, have taken. Instead of focusing on school choice heavily or impeachment, it's the border. And that's happening on both sides. You see these, some incumbents, Travis Clardy comes to mind, Drew Darby, I think, ran this messaging, tying the opposition to the school choice plan to education funding for illegal immigrants. That just shows the prominence of the border issue, I think. And both sides are trying to use that to their advantage. It's just odd seeing this one thing. Normally you try and find a wedge issue, right? But the border is just all encompassing right now. And, Governor Abbott has been big on that. He's become the face of the border resistance, I think, and among Republicans in the country. So that's an interesting dynamic that I think I didn't expect to see. I thought we'd see, the two pillars of impeachment and school choice be the top two. On the Democratic side, they're definitely loving this infighting. That's for sure. But they do have some infighting of their own. You mentioned Sean Theory. I think polling came out yesterday, the day before. The showed are actually kind of up comfortably. Now, not quite over 50% to avoid a runoff, but a lot of people were thinking that one especially is going to be really tight because of mainly the two votes she took in favor of the Reader Act, which was the porn in schools bill, and then the gender modification ban. And she bucked her party on both of those and, voted with Republicans on that. And, she's facing a contentious fight there. I think she got censured by a couple county GOPs down there, or maybe it's just one. But the progressive wing is definitely going after her. And so far, if I trust Mark Jones's polling more than almost anybody else, so that's probably a pretty good gauge where the primary fight in that one is. But overall, Democrats are loving this. And the question is, can they overcome the border issue itself when we get to the general? It's a bad issue for them, and they know it.
Yeah.
Continue. I mean, I guess maybe this transitions a bit from the primaries, and I don't want to go too far from it, but I'm curious your thought. And I think I originally saw these poll numbers because you shared them. There was a poll last week that came out that showed Allred and Cruz kind of neck and neck in a matchup of a general. So I guess kind of what's your take on that? What are you hearing out there? Are the Cruz people seemingly taking that seriously? Clearly, I think I also saw from your Twitter feed that Allred's team was just fundraising like crazily, probably in large part based off of that. So clearly they're taking it seriously.
Yeah, that was an odd poll, and it especially was odd based on who did it. It was National Public Affairs, which, based on just looking at open secrets, they're more of a GOP firm, it seems. And so you'd think they wouldn't be slanted toward, a more Democratic favorable sample. Maybe it just happened that way. There may not have been any nefariousness involved in that. It just happens, right? But then you saw UT put out a poll, and it had Cruz up 14 on both Allred and Gutierrez, with Allred way up in the primary. So I would lean more on that, I think, as far as validity, the UT poll, just because that reflects the broader base of polling that we've seen so far. It's not a Beto Cruz really tight matchup, I don't think. But Allred has done very well on fundraising, not quite as well as Beto did in 18, but he's making it quite competitive in terms of money. It's just, I don't know. We're still a long way out from the general on that one.
So, I mean, I'm going to share my screen here. We got Colin Allred, and I see these posts from him. They're ads all the time, and he's begging for money, and it just seems so desperate every time he does it. And you talk about, he's doing well on fundraising. Well, he's spending all his money asking for money, so he better be doing well. But he says, what if I told you Ted Cruz has mega donors funneling millions of dollars into his campaign war chest, and then I'm depending on your donation today to keep up. Please, this is our best chance to finally give Texans the leadership we deserve. Give whatever you can today. And it just sounds so, every time I see one of these ads, it sounds pathetic. And I don't know why. He's just begging for it, making it seem like he can't raise any money. And Ted Cruz is just whooping him. And I don't know. I guess it's working. Maybe I'm wrong. Anybody?
I think you got to spend money to make money, right? And I think he's been doing that.
I don't know.
And I think when you look at some of these, sorry, Michael, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Ruben Gallego is doing the same thing in Arizona right now in the Kerry Lake race, saying he's got ads that say he's down 6 points, and I think they're actually capitalizing. The Democrats are capitalizing on the lack of enthusiasm for Biden or their candidates to raise money. It's good strategy.
And also, I was just going to say, I think a lot of times when you look at these like very dramatic messages, they seem to work. I always get the ones, or I used to get the ones from Trump that'd be like, I just heard that you didn't give, like, you're not one of my top 10 fans anymore. Like, rush $100 donation right now. And I think the GOP put out one the other day on Twitter where it was like, like, friends, we're in trouble. Like, we've got to get this money. And I think a lot of people end up falling for that stuff and maybe give them money. But clearly, whatever strategy Colin Allred has is working for him.
Do those things work? I mean, I get those same emails and text messages from Trump, like, you're my favorite voter or whatever the hell.
My favorite patriot.
Yeah, you're my favorite patriot. Come, did you donate this month or whatever? And I'm just like, stop it.
They would keep sending them if somebody didn't rush a donation after they saw that.
I mean, I don't know. Would they stop? Well, I think they would still do it even if it didn't work. They do stuff that doesn't work all the time.
That's true. That's fair.
Well, somebody keeps falling for the Nigerian prince bit. That's just so overdone. So
there you go. People do that. That's usually old people, I think. No,
I have a funny story about that.
Are you a Nigerian prince?
No. I'm not going to tell the story on here. I'll tell you after.
Real quick.
No, I'm not a Nigerian prince. We got.
Real quick before we move off Texas primaries, I'm looking at these races where you've got Abbott, Paxton, Trump, like the whole Patrick, all on the same side. I'm thinking in the Mike Alcott race. I think Hillary Hickland, Helen Kerwin, and they're going against Rogers, Shine, and Burns. That's like really high stakes. Like, they have to win those. Could you imagine that narrative after the primary if they don't win those and then they're trying to get school choice done next session? Do you have any insights there or thoughts on those races where they're all on the same side?
Yeah, well, Abbott is rolling the dice here. He's pissing off a lot of incumbent Republicans basically beyond reproach. It's not, if they remain in office, they're going to dig their heels in even more on school choice, or against it. So he's gambling there, and he's got to win those. He's got to win enough to make the math worth it. But in the HT2 special, Brent Money had basically all the endorsements, and Jill Dutton edged out a very narrow win. So that right there, that's the only thing we have to go on so far. It's not a good testament for the effectiveness of these endorsements, but it was also a special runoff. So like it's kind of an anomaly in itself. But yeah, we're gonna see just how effective these have been. Everyone's, if they have an Abbott endorsement, everyone's slapping a picture of them and the governor on mail pieces, and they're banking on the fact that he's very popular right now. Look at all the favorable and unfavorable ratings that he's getting. He's leading the pack in all of the incumbents. So if anyone's going to have an effect on this, it's probably Abbott, and that's what he's banking on.
Can I say, I mean, this endorsement, it seems like there's a lot of controversy around endorsements and people saying they have endorsements when they don't have endorsements. And I was shared this in a Twitter message group that I'm a part of. So it's not mine, But here's Ellen Troxclair. Everyone knows Ellen Troxclair. She says she endorses me as her favorite podcaster, by the way. And I just wanted to point this out for Biederman because he got in trouble. You can't really see my cursor that well, but it's right there. He got in trouble, right? Am I mistaken that he said that he was endorsed by Greg Abbott, but he wasn't? Greg Abbott sent him a cease and desist letter. Is that right? Correct?
Yeah, that happened.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, at the forum this week that I went to, he addressed it and said, "Well, it was just I served 6 years in the legislature and got a lot done with the governor. So it wasn't me claiming an endorsement. It was just me showing the fact that we've been on the same side about things previously. But when this is sent to a voter who doesn't know really anything about the kinds of stuff that I'm watching constantly, just because that's my job. They have their own lives to worry about. It definitely looks like trying to insinuate an endorsement. Same with that Trump one right there.
That's what I'm getting to. I mean, Ellen is like really pushing. All right, I was endorsed by Greg Abbott. You can see it in all these flyers. That's great. But then here's Kyle Biederman. He's the only candidate in this race to proudly endorse President Donald J. Trump. So he's advertising the fact that he endorsed Trump, and it's really making it seem like Trump endorsed him. That's what he's doing, right? That's what everyone else is seeing.
Yeah.
And it works. I mean, it works, does it?
Yeah,
probably.
To some.
It's not. He ain't lying. Well, I don't know. Maybe Ellen Troxclair has not endorsed President Trump, and if she didn't, who cares? I don't care. But I think that that's a pretty sly trick that Biederman's pulling there. Why is he doing all that stuff? Why is he pretending to be endorsed, and why is he saying I endorsed Trump in an effort to say that Trump endorsed him?
Well, by the time usually that it's figured out, the damage has already been done, right? The voters already seen the mail piece well before the cease and desist letter goes out. It's kind of underhanded, but it's probably effective, I think.
And probably more people are going to see that in their inbox, and they're going to see Abbott's, tweet of the cease and desist letter or something, So even if they do see it, like you said, it's going to be well beyond that. But that's if they see it to begin with.
Yeah, it's the same principle as a retraction in a news story, right? It's like the damage is already done before the retraction is made. And there's been a lot of wild stuff going on in HD19, and I'm obviously not impartial here, as Ellen Troxclair is my friend, and but there's been quite a bit of underhanded stuff going on over there. That's just campaign, 101.
I have a question still on primaries. Really curious about this because you guys, I think, have been have played a really big part in putting information out about this. But the Court of Criminal Appeals stuff, I'm just kind of curious. I know you guys sat down with Judge Slaughter. I guess this was probably a year ago now, and did a really good video. I thought it was really good. I watched it myself, kind of explaining the decision. And I guess I'm going to let you kind of frame it. I don't want to misspeak on kind of what this overall fight is, but if you could talk a little bit about that, I think it'd be really, really good.
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird situation with you have Donald Trump Jr. weighing in on a Court of Criminal Appeals race. That's just wild. So it focuses on this ruling issued by the Court of Criminal Appeals, which is the highest court in the state on criminal matters. It's kind of even with the Supreme Court of Texas, which its jurisdiction is civil matters. And so the court issued a ruling, and I don't know all the intricacies of it. Matt, who did the interview, knows it far better than I do. But basically it found that the Texas Constitution narrowly prescribes the ability to prosecute election fraud with county DAs. And the Attorney General can be invited in by these DAs to prosecute, but he can't do it himself. And this has become a lightning rod issue, especially for Paxton. He's campaigning in all these races on it, and especially in these CCA races, there's 3 judges up for re-election. One of whom is Michelle Slaughter, the one that was interviewed by my colleague, and she wrote the opinion, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken on a life of its own, I think. Slaughter's position is that this is the originalist position, that the Constitution does not explicitly prescribe the ability to prosecute these election offenses with the Attorney General. The Attorney General contends that, well, it's been that way for decades, and courts have not ruled this way until now, and this has taken away my ability to prosecute election fraud. I hope that explains it. I don't know like the legal back and forth as much as someone else, but that's as far as I know.
No, I think that's generally how I understood it too. And I'm just curious though, because with this being, I mean, usually, especially in Harris County, I voted yesterday. We have a 61-page ballot with like 1.5 million judge races. Is it resonating? Are people paying attention to it? I mean, usually that court and every other court are just such low-profile races for the average person. Are they really kind of sinking their teeth into this because of how much he's been hammering that, or is it still not resonating?
I think it's probably too difficult for anyone to really understand fully. Now, the way the Attorney General's framing it, it's this court took away my ability to keep our elections secure, essentially. And that's a much simpler message, and that's what he's deploying here. I don't know. I personally think that impeachment probably has more resonance than this does. But the thing is, the CCA had nothing to do with impeachment. So on those races specifically, this is the wedge issue. And we've seen Michelle Slaughter hit back quite a bit, especially on Twitter. In our podcast interview, she did as well. I don't know if anybody's seeing that, and good luck trying to combat a mailer that says your judge took away my ability to prosecute election fraud with a really nuanced, take on a competing mailer. I don't think that's doable. So, but then again, how many people are actually going to get down to the CCA judges and vote on that, right?
Yeah,
I don't know how many people will understand what the heck it even is. Probably fairly small in terms of who's going to cast a ballot for president. So
fair.
What do you think? I'm looking at some of your articles here on the Texan.news. See, another plug. Pay me. You got this. Trump is up 71 points on Haley in Texas primary poll, and 7 points on Biden in general election. And we all expect that. We all expect that Trump is going to win Texas, both in the primaries and the general, right? Texas, of course. Why do you think Haley's still in this?
I think
put on your tinfoil hat if you need to. This is a safe space.
Yeah. I think her gamble is that something happens with the legal issues and makes him ineligible to run, and then she's the only one standing to be the last option.
But she does have she's getting some very wealthy people who presumably in wealth and IQ don't necessarily always go together. But I think that it's it's a pretty good correlation. If you got a lot of money that you made yourself, you're probably a pretty smart guy or girl. Sorry. And you probably have people that are advising you on how to spend your money and everything like that. And we all know that the wealthy have inside lines into what's going on in America that we don't have, right? They know what's happening. Why are they giving money to Haley? Do they know something we don't?
My read on it is they see Donald Trump as a sure loss against Biden in November, which I don't know if that's the case. I mean, this is just such a weird election, but there is a sizable portion of the donor class who thinks Trump is a very flawed candidate, which he obviously is. Whether he, is effective is a totally different question. But they see the flaws and they think that the only way forward is someone new. And I think it also goes back to this competition between different factions within the party. You know, Haley represents the more traditionally Republican establishment base, I'd say. Trump is very much not that. And so they're kind of hedging their bets on some wild card changing the calculus on this thing.
I mean, they are spending a lot of money on those hedge bets. A lot. Right? And okay, maybe they think that Trump can't beat Biden in the general, but he's going to beat Haley.
Well, that's not what Brad's saying. I think, right, Brad? I think you're saying essentially that.
Stop. Something. Stop. Something's going on with your microphone.
Oh, really?
There, that's better. I don't know what you did. It was like sounded like you were holding it inside your mouth. Yeah, there it goes again. I don't know what's happening.
I can maybe pick up.
Hold on.
I think, yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's more cynical. I think it's more cynical than that. I actually think it's just a resource drain effort. If she stays in the primary, in particular in South Carolina, New Hampshire, Iowa, not so much Texas, but he has to spend some amount of resources and energy on getting voters out, and they're just taking his money away. I think that's it. I don't know that there's any insider information about which is what Swale is implying, that they have insider information that Trump's not going to be on the ballot come November.
I don't know.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
we could hear you before, but it sounded like your microphone was like you were. I'll try not to be crude.
Okay, I'm just saying, does it not sound all right? Can you understand what I'm saying, though? Is all I'm asking. Yes.
Well, I couldn't. It was bad. But start over.
No, now. So anyway, okay. So I think if I'm not mistaken, I think what Brad Johnson is saying is that, which I've heard before, is that Haley is kind of just sitting around trying to stay in to be the last man standing if Trump is, indicted and found guilty, or God forbid something happens with both of their health, or like whatever. She's still there, and she's like, you didn't pick me, but I'm left because you don't have the candidate of your choice, and now you have to go with me. And I mean, with 91 charges against him, like I it's not a bad. Like I'd probably be like, let me stick this out too.
Can we put on our, let's open our third eye and try to, try to predict what might happen, right? Okay, Trump is off the ballot for whatever reason. He dies from a heart attack, is what apparently Charles wants to happen, or he gets indicted. And he's not eligible to run for whatever reason. So the last choice for Republicans is Nikki Haley. What the hell happens then? RFK wins, Libertarian finally gets like some significant amount, or Biden just trounces him. Because no one likes Haley. No one likes her.
I don't know that she automatically gets the nomination. You still got to cobble together enough delegates at the convention to get the nomination of the party. So just because she's the only one currently running, I don't think that assumes she gets all the delegates. I don't know though. How does Texas work?
I don't know. I don't think she would naturally just like assume office from that, but I do think that she would have a case being the last one standing, be like, yeah, I might not have been the number one pick, but clearly I'm the number two pick. So now you should make me the number one pick. Like, I feel like that's a good platform to go off of. If it's successful or not, it's a whole other question. But
I'm the best loser. That's a good platform.
Exactly. Well, no, I think it's actually sad, but I think it's a smart move if you're really just desperate to be president. Like, I think that's
Brad, what do you think?
Well, you mentioned the poll. The thing I thought was most interesting in that poll is that Haley was down, I think, 9 to Biden in a general election in Texas. That's just crazy. I mean,
what?
You put standard Republican in, and they're going to beat Biden in Texas, but Haley's down. I don't know if that's just disdain for her still being in the race with Trump. That may well be, but that was shocking to me. The other gamble I think she's probably taking is on top of trying to be the last man standing. Campaign apparatuses you can't just create them like that. So if for some reason Trump does get removed from the ballot for whatever reason, her apparatus will still be operational and running, or at least that's the hope she has. And whoever else would be drafted to kind of take the mantle of the Trump wing of the party, they'd have to either just take Trump's campaign from infrastructure from that, or start anew, and that would give her an advantage with something already in place.
Yeah, we're talking uncharted territory. I don't know. We don't have super delegates in the Republican Party like the Democrats do, so you can't. So does the person with the second most delegates become the presumptive candidate when the person with the most delegates falls off? I have no idea.
Didn't it happen in 2016 when Trump won? Like people were talking about like the delegates not selecting him even though he won. So can't that happen?
The rogue elector thing. Or
rogue electors, yeah.
So they were saying.
Ominous.
I mean, anything could happen. We're already in uncharted territory. I mean, how many times have we had a presidential candidate with 91 charges? We're already in this uncharted territory. We're well into it. We've been in it for like 8 years.
I think that violence happens if Trump get off the ballot. I don't want it to happen. FBI agent who listens to the show, I don't want it to happen. I'm saying I think it happens. I'm not encouraging it. Anything else you want to talk about this? Do y'all want to do some potpourri?
Oh, yeah, sure. We can do potpourri.
We can talk about this more, Charles.
I was going to talk about the Trump thing. I was going to ask Brad his thoughts on kind of overall turnout so far.
Oh, well, let's do that and then we'll do potpourri. I don't mean to be so abrupt.
Right. Yeah, Brad, any thoughts on turnout? I know I again saw you share Derek Ryan's report, but kind of what are you gleaning from that and from other stuff that you're hearing?
Well, I'm kind of tracking day by day, not as sophisticated as Derek does. So definitely find his stuff if that so interests you. It's obviously way up from the midterm from 22, which is kind of a given. It's a presidential year. That's of course going to happen. From the numbers I've been seeing, it's pretty on par with 2020, which I'm not sure how to think about that because 2020 was such a weird year with the pandemic, obviously. But Texas did get its primary in before everything really shut down. I think things really hit the fan in mid-March, and the primary was March 1st, I believe. So maybe it was more of a regular year in terms of elections and turnout just for that primary. But you see Democrats having a lot lower turnout than they did in 2020 so far, and Republicans are up. So even though total the margins are kind of the same, the percentages are relatively similar, Republican turnout's way up given the the actually contested primary on the ballot. Democrats, meanwhile, have the reverse. There's Marianne Williamson that's running against Biden. Who else? I don't know. Maybe her Houston enclave draws some support down in Charles's neck of the woods.
I am a Marianne Williamson fan.
Yeah. So overall, we're gonna have to have a lot more data to really know. But it just kind of seems the roles are reversed given the incumbent Democrat in the White House and the contested Republican primary. So that's my read on it so far.
Cool. Brad, go ahead with your potpourri. Brad Swale.
Well, which one do you want to do? You want to talk about the moon landing, or do you want to talk about the NFL draft? I got the NFL. I got Madden 2025. This was leaked to me before the show. We're breaking news here. This is the cover of Madden 25. We have NFL's favorite new player, Taylor Swift, on the cover. I don't know. There's the Madden curse. I don't know if people are aware of the Madden curse, but whoever is on the cover of the Madden game, that's John Madden for Charles's mom, who's definitely watching and may not know what Madden 25 is. It's a video game, football video game. But the Madden curse, whoever's on the cover has a bad year, right? And we got Taylor Swift on the cover, and she has a new album coming out in April. It's got some really weird name. I can't remember off the top of my head, but maybe whoever she endorses doesn't win. Ooh, Madden curse.
It's a heck of a
what do y'all want to do? I don't know if I just covered if I successfully just all by myself, which is possible, covered the NFL potpourri. If you want to add something, let's do that. Or we talk about the moon landing, or both. I don't care.
Well, seeing as 50% of this call doesn't believe the moon landing happened, I think maybe we should just go ahead and talk about that.
Brad Johnson doesn't believe in the moon landing?
The shadows and whatnot.
Well, first, what do you real quick, because Brad's a big sports fan. So what are you watching on the NFL draft? I see the first 3 picks, they all possibly need quarterbacks. I think it's the Bears. I can't remember who the 3 are, but they need quarterbacks. So what are you looking at?
Well, the big question is, do the Bears trade away their first pick and stick with Justin Fields, or do they trade Justin Fields and go with Caleb Williams? I think that's the biggest question mark right now. I'm a Lions fan, so my God, we need some secondary help. So that's what I'm watching.
You're a Detroit Lions fan? When was the last time they won anything?
Never. Well, not in the Super Bowl era.
That's why you got to love them.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to pour salt on that wound, but I'm a 49ers fan.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you had your own disappointment, so.
Sure did. Nice.
Rock on.
Yeah, that comeback was wild. I was very comfortable in the first half of that NFC Championship game, and then we couldn't do anything. But hey, kudos to you.
I know.
Great team.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you guys next year. Yeah. If you get some secondary help.
Desperately.
What is the secondary? Is that the special teams? Is that backup players? What is that?
Quarterbacks, safeties, corner backs.
Why are they called secondaries? Quarterback seems like a first, like not a secondary. That seems like a top tier position. Cornerback, not quarterback.
Guard's the wide receiver. It's the secondary level of the defense.
Yeah, seriously, Brad.
I don't subscribe to their bread and circuses. All right,
It's okay. I have no idea what they're talking about either. Like, it's fine. It's totally fine.
Have you guys heard of the pants scandal in spring training right now?
What?
No. Do tell.
So Major League Baseball is about to start spring training, or they already have, and they're starting to play games, and there's a shortage of pants from Nike.
Is this
that explains a tweet that I saw now. Okay, that makes sense.
And all the players hate the pants because they're like see-through, so you can see everything underneath. That
explains the tweet now.
Yeah. It's apparently rocking the baseball world. I just read an article on it last night, so that's
so I have to start watching baseball now, huh? See-through pants?
Well, the tweet said it was like, well, we heard that the numbers are dwindling. These pants are going to help bring back the numbers, the viewership. And so I was like, I don't know what that means, but that makes sense.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of that Seinfeld where George Costanza's working for the New York Yankees, and he convinces them to switch to polyester or to cotton. I can't remember. And everyone gets really uncomfortable because of the pants. They're too tight. And they're just, I don't know. No one else watches Seinfeld?
No, I wasn't born in 1930.
What the fuck did you just say to me?
Sorry.
What?
I'm just kidding. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is very funny.
She was also very pretty. I don't know that she was still. Is she though? I don't know about that.
Anyway,
what?
Go ahead.
Is there more about the draft or sports? Do we want to go back to politics, or do we go to the moon landing? I'm surprised Michael doesn't know about the moon landing. Do you know why he doesn't? Do you know why he doesn't know about the moon landing, Charles?
Because he doesn't believe it happened.
Because it didn't happen.
All right, Brad, did you know that we went to the moon yesterday? Brad Johnson.
I did see that, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Brad Swell, you didn't run. You saw a headline, but you didn't see anything else, correct?
There's nothing to see because it didn't happen. So shares of intuitive machines soar after first successful U.S. moon landing in half a century. This is by Tyler Durden over at Zero Hedge. And this is the best the graphics they can do. Look at this.
No, there was literally not a live stream. But
they couldn't even. What?
There wasn't a live stream, but there was a better image that was shown, and it has been landed in the South Pole of the moon, and it has been relaying information.
South Pole of the moon. What are you talking about? Earth?
Anyway.
Actually, this is actually a better picture, and it kind of convinces me. And maybe this time it's real. I don't know. Here, there you go.
Tortilla. All right. Well, that was great. Thanks. Anyway, for those who want to know more about our moon landing, we went to the moon yesterday. A rover landed. I think it's called Odie. Odie. What's the name of the dog from? I think
Otis?
it's Odie. No, it's Odie. I think it's called. Anyway, that's the name of the. Yeah. Oh, his full name is Odysseus, but they call him Odie for short. And that is the first private U.S. moon landing.
Odysseus. It's short for Odysseus.
Yeah, just said that.
Okay. Well, you were also saying Odie.
Yes,
Calm
but they're
down.
calling it Odie.
Here's the video that they're sharing. Look at that. Look how real that is. Oh man. How'd they get the camera there first, do you think? Oh, look at it go.
All right. Well, anyway, Brad Johnson, the next thing I'm really curious to get your take on is you reported on the conference that was here with, I think, Lieutenant Governor speaking with, was it the BlackRock CEO? After following, a number of other comments that I guess were a little more contentious between BlackRock. So just kind of what's your take on that whole situation? Kind of give us the rundown based on your reporting from that.
Yeah, it's certainly an example of strange bedfellows, especially because Dan Patrick has been, at BlackRock's throat for years on the issue of ESG. And on this, though, he's like, we're aligned and we've had good conversations, me and Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. But the issue that they're talking about is getting more dispatchable power generation into Texas, namely ERCOT. And the reason we're in this mess is so ERCOT itself, it's not the amount of power, the amount of the price paid for power is not negotiated up front like in most of the rest of the country. It's kind of like it's a supply and demand curve. It's based on how much is available and how much is needed to is being pulled from the grid. The price changes by basically every 15 minutes. And because of that, this entire structure is dependent on these complex market signals, price signals, and it's created if you throw a wrench into it, it can get screwed up pretty bad. And that's what happened with these federal subsidies, namely the production tax credit. These wind and solar generators can get, it's like 2.6 cents per kilowatt hour generated from the federal government. And it makes the investments for wind and solar a lot cheaper, on top of the fact that they don't have fuel costs. So you literally have a scenario in which these generators can sell electricity at a negative price. And that has really affected the markets and the ability of more traditional forms of power that are usually more reliable from being built, because the capital, when the attractive financial investment is wind and solar, it doesn't want to go to natural gas. And so this is the problem that we've kind of run in from an ERCOT standpoint, as the state is just booming in population and economic output, all of which requires power, right? So in Houston, Patrick and Larry Fink convened a bunch of investors. It was basically an advertisement for this loan program that the legislature approved. It was on the ballot in November, approved by voters. And they're going to get, it's like a 60%, anyone accepted in this, it's going to get like a 60%, a loan amounting to 60% of the capital cost of a power plant, essentially. Basically trying to provide a counterbalance to the production tax credit and make it more financially attractive for these investors to build natural gas power plants. And what that really complicated string of events means is that it will be, the grid will be more stable when wind and solar don't show up, provided we build these power plants. Because if we're depending on wind and solar to make up the difference on a day, especially in the summer, when the wind basically disappears, the sun goes down at sunset, you can have some pretty tight periods. And not only does that just cause general freak out, and understandably so, based on what happened 3 years ago now, but also cost money. And because of the scarcity pricing, when there's a very small margin between the supply and demand, the price goes way up, and that's eventually going to trickle down to everyday people paying their utility bills.
So essentially, since government has disincentivized building anything other than wind and solar, we're now using government to incentivize building the other side because we've got to balance it out somehow. Is what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's basically right. Yeah, exactly. And Patrick sees one thing that sent a lot of shockwaves into the industry. The average person won't give a crap about this, but it would affect them. Is that he said, if this loan program does not bring on enough generation, the state might have to build power plants, and that happens elsewhere. But it doesn't happen here, and it would drastically change. We already have seen the financial balance, the market itself, screwed up greatly by the government getting involved. This being the federal government, this would be the state government getting even more involved and picking winners and losers, and that's what the people already in the power industry now are very wary of, very afraid of. But Patrick's position is, I don't care how we do it, we just have to get more power plants online, and if this is what does it, this is what does it.
For a state that doesn't love government subsidies, we sure love government subsidies.
They're everywhere.
It's unfortunate.
Well, we need to fortify our grid so that Greg Casar can attach it to the national grid.
To the big naturals.
Yeah.
AOC is what I'm referring to. What? I got some smiles from Charles and Brad, and I got a groan from Michael.
The groan was from all of us. He was just expressing it for us.
Okay. Well, whatever, guys. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Not every single one of them can land, but I'm going to keep trying, especially on the moon. So, what?
The law of averages.
Exactly. The law of averages. I think I've got a pretty high average, to be honest, but no pushback. Yes. So, see, look at that. All right. What were we talking about? Well, Brad Johnson, do you think that the Connect the Grid Act presented by Greg Casar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, do you think that that's going to go anywhere? And if it does go somewhere, how quickly does Texas secede?
No, it's going right in the trash bin. That's going nowhere, especially in a Republican-controlled House. But this idea has been talked about a lot, and it's really gained steam after 21. There's all the people that want federal oversight of the grid, and they feel that's the only way to run things, and that's probably that aligns politically with more progressive ideology. I don't think it's just progressives though that think that's a good idea. But how Texas isn't going to secede. It's not going to.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that they should or that they will, but I'm saying if they take our grid, that's a big.
We're going to complain on Twitter, and then nothing's going to happen. We'll be like, yeah.
Well, it's because we're going to have. You think that the subsidies now for wind and solar are bonkers. Wait till federal government connects the Texas grid to their grids, and then what happens? It's going to be nothing but wind and solar. That's the deal. They don't care. They don't care if our lights went out for a week, 2 years in 2020. They want that Green New Deal, right? Don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know Michael and Charles agree, but Brad Johnson.
Yeah, I think that's probably at least portions of the Green New Deal is something they want, and we saw the LNG stuff that the Biden administration did. Pausing that. That's a pretty big shot across the bow, I think, of not only the oil and gas industry overall, but Texas and how important that is here.
Yeah. What else is going on? Michael and Charles.
Why all the topics that we had on my list were covered.
No, we.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about that mud with the one.
Oh, yeah, the mud.
one voter
Fact.
that you just
Wild.
reported on. Yeah, let's talk about that. Tell us what happened.
Tell us
here.
what a mud is, because I don't think a lot of people know what a mud is.
Yeah. A MUD, Municipal Utility District, it's a special purpose district. Basically, it is a taxing entity that borrows money to build sewage and other kind of residential infrastructure necessary to support homes, suburbs, things like that. They build it in rural areas and get them developed. We're seeing a lot in the kind of exurbs of big cities. This happened in Rockwall.
How is it different from like in this case, if I live in Austin, so I would think that Austin would do that sort of stuff, right? But if I move out to a mud, is that a city? Is that a town? Is it its own thing? Can it be within a city? Can a mud start within Austin?
I think it'd have to be an undeveloped part of Austin.
Okay.
There's another thing called a municipal management district that can be used more for already developed areas.
Let me just say something real quick. You said maybe an undeveloped part of Austin. Charles Blaine thinks that none of Austin is developed enough. So I guess we can all just be one big mud.
Charles wants us all to live in apartments.
If you're lucky, if you have enough Bitcoin and it doesn't crash to zero and they use the internet skill switch, you can sell it off and maybe you can get a 2-bedroom apartment. Look at that.
I was just trying to piss off both of us.
He hit the Bitcoin. That struck a chord with Michael. Oh man.
So yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt too much. I just wanted to pick on Charles and Michael.
So in this case, this happened in Rockwall. That's east of Dallas. And this has been going on for like a year and a half or so. In 22, there was an election to create the MUD and authorize like $830 million worth of debt spending. And it was approved by only one voter, which is par for the course with most of these MUDs, but it's just pretty wild to see.
Can you clarify? It was approved by one voter. Does that mean that it was approved by like the margin was one vote, or only one person voted?
Oh, one singular voted cast the decide.
How does one person vote for $830 million or whatever it is? How does that happen? Where do they even get who's going to give them that money? There's only one person.
That's the law in Texas. But it's this difficult dilemma in how do you build the infrastructure that's a prerequisite for a tax base or a voter base before they're even there. So, it's a wild scenario, but I don't know if there's really a way around it. What makes this one so insane is that the guy had a lengthy criminal record. Before the election, it was all misdemeanors, so he can still vote. But afterwards, he was convicted of one felony, and then there were a few other felonies that were pled down to misdemeanors, one of which was aggravated sexual assault of a child. That was pled down. It's just a crazy situation, and the county's suing over it, so they're hoping to invalidate that election.
He pled down aggravated sexual assault of a child, so
yeah,
there was the accusation was he aggravatedly sexually assaulted a child, and he pled that down to something less.
Pled it down to illegal touching. Yeah.
Why would they let people do that? Do you think that of all the crimes that you want to prosecute to the maximum extent of the law, sexual assault of a child, especially aggravated, you'd think that'd be maybe at the top?
He must have done it in Travis County or something.
Ooh, DA race, bringing it back.
But so I got a question on this. The MUD, he's the one voter, but is he also the developer, or how does? So he just created the MUD. He's the applicant with the TCEQ and the voter.
No, generally how. Generally how it works is a developer finds an area and they begin the process of creating this MUD. If the legislature's in session, the ledge has to approve it. If they're not, the TCEQ can approve it, which is one of the big gripes of some legislators that pay attention to this. Justin Holland's one. He's big on this issue. He is also in Rockwall, so this is close to home for him. But regardless, they get approved very easily. A lot of times when the ledge is in session, they get strapped onto larger bills, like barnacles to a ship, and get through, even if there was previous opposition. But the developer pays this one voter to basically squat on the undeveloped land, register to vote there, and then that creates the mud. And oftentimes, the person that is the developer serves as the president of the mud. That's the case in Colony Ridge. The MMD there was both an MMD and a mud created. The guy that runs that has all the taxing authority is the developer of Colony Ridge, Trey Harris. So it's a weird situation.
Yeah, and the developer here is Don Huffines' brother. Is that right?
Yep, Philip Huffines. Yep,
Philip Huffines, and Philip Huffines couldn't find a non-criminal to squat. Like,
don't a big family. You could get his nephew to do it or something.
You could, yeah. I don't think many of these people do a lot of research into who it is. It's it's just a crappy job to do. You're living in the middle of nowhere for a year. I think you have to be registered there. Mm-hmm. So they find just scuzzy people
who are willing to live in the middle of nowhere for a year.
I mean, given the right amount of money, I'd live in the middle of nowhere for a year. I mean, what is it? There's $830 million on the line. You're going to pay me to live in the middle of nowhere.
I mean, but you're also there's no sewage. I mean, you're living in probably a trailer. It's not like services set up.
Do not care. You pay. I mean, how much? What's the going rate here?
I mean, I get it. Yeah, but you're not getting paid $850 million. You're probably getting paid like $20,000 or something.
I know, but I don't know, a savvy negotiator, right? Hey, you guys got $830 million on the line. How much are you going to pay me to live out here? It better be more than $20,000. Better be seven figures.
Record, you might not have that leverage to ask for more than $20,000.
If I have a criminal record, is that what you said?
Yeah, if you're this guy, you might not have the leverage. You might just be like, right, I'll take it.
Well, your leverage is if they don't pay you enough, you go and vote it down.
What? There you go.
You agree to the $20,000, and then when it comes down to the vote, you say, no, Senator Huffines, I want some of that car dealership money. Yeah. For those that don't know, Don Huffines, former candidate for governor of Texas, he owns a lot of car dealerships, right? Yeah. Okay. Well,
he and his brothers have a lot of businesses.
Little Texas history for everybody.
Also in the mud business.
Oh yeah, he is.
They got to be able to do something.
If I go like this,
they got to be able to do something about that. The legislature, right? I mean, I get that you need muds, but you got to be able to put. I'm not a big fan of regulation either, but you got to be able to put some guardrails to on this thing, right?
The suggestion I've heard the most is requiring consent from the Board of Commissioners before a mud can be created. That way you have some local official stake in it. Now you don't need it at all, and you'll see boards of commissioners put out resolutions either for or against these things, and it's just a informality basically. And I think in the Colony Ridge example, the board did approve the creation of the MMD there in the mud, but I think in Rockwall they did not in a resolution, but it still went through anyway. Yeah, it's a tricky situation. There's not really a good way to solve it, and especially with how much growth is coming to the state, you have to be able to build this prerequisite infrastructure. Otherwise, you're gonna shove everybody into where the people already are, and nobody wants to live in New York City if they're in Texas, right? So, only imperfect solutions, I think. Charles,
stop pointing at me. No, I agree though. I mean, you've got to have the services and the amenities to attract the people to ultimately then pay down the debt. But yeah, so it's like a weird catch-22 here. It's like you got to figure out something. But some of them work well. Like the township of the Woodlands is technically just a special purpose district, and it operates rather well, and voters voted against incorporation because of how much they like it and stuff. And so, but then you have these other ones, which you have like 3 people who go and vote like all this massive amount of money. It's like, I don't know, it's crazy.
Well, and other problems with these MUDs, it's very difficult to find any information about when they meet, what the board does when they meet, things like that. Like there's almost no transparency with most of these things. With the Woodlands is probably the biggest exception, but it's a lot of tax money that they authorize the collection of, and people just see it appear on their property tax bill, and generally have no idea why the hell it's a thing until they start looking into it after they see their bill.
Yeah.
Well, Charles loves it because it develops. It's more development. So Charles,
I do like MUDs when they're operated appropriately, and when it's
what does appropriately mean? A lot of closets for people to sleep in? Is that appropriate for you, Charles?
When you have open board meetings and you invite people to the board meetings, and they're able to actually, just whatever.
Brad Johnson, we are well over an hour. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today and sharing your expertise. I do encourage everyone to follow you on X at BradJ_TX and subscribe to the Texan.news and follow your work there. Download that freaking app. I haven't done it yet. I'll be honest, but I am a subscriber, so I'm going to download it. I support y'all. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before we let you go?
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun, and this primary season is just insane. It's going to continue to be that way, especially with runoffs when we hit there. So, buckle in.
Oh, we're buckled.
For it.
We'll definitely stay in touch with you and get more of your insight as things develop. Brad Johnson, thank you so much.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, guys.
There we go. Cool. Thanks to Brad Johnson. I appreciate it. What are you doing?
Who?
You snub your nose at me.
I was scratching my nose.
What is going on today with you two? Oh my God.
You too. I am so nice. I have not said one word this whole episode. One mean word. I've been very friendly.
I don't know.
Brad must have had one too few or one too many eggs this morning. I don't know which one it is.
I haven't eaten. That's
what it is.
No, it's not. I never eat in the morning. I intermittent fast.
Oh.
So yeah. Well, is there anything else that we want to talk about? Any sort of housekeeping? Does Charles Huh?
You guys try to bait me on the moon landing?
No,
I'm undecided. That's where I'm at.
About whether it happened or not?
I mean, Michael, there was no baiting going on. I went full. I did what Charles expected you to do, which is dismiss the whole thing as a kooky conspiracy.
I've gone down the rabbit hole. Nothing's convinced me that that's true.
Which one? The one from yesterday or the one from the original one?
He didn't even know what happened yesterday. Yeah, nothing's convinced you that it happened or it didn't happen or either way?
Either way.
You're going to piss off a lot. Ambivalent. Well, yeah, I'm ambivalent. I don't really care if it happened or didn't happen. I mean, what have we gained from it if it did happen? A bunch of lost technology, the ability to go again?
It's quite an accomplishment if we was done.
Well, this is a great episode, even though I was sick.
You did. We couldn't tell. You seemed totally normal. I kind of don't believe that you were sick, but so yeah, subscribe, share with friends. All the buttons are down below. You know what to do. Turn on notifications. Do all of that. Help us grow. Please tune in next week where probably all of my jokes will land. I don't think there'll be another dud. It happens from time to time. I can't stop it, but I'm gonna try. You know,
we don't know what his sense of humor is like, so we don't know what his sense of humor is like. Maybe it's a perfect match for you. I'm gonna guess no, but maybe.
Wait, whose?
Oh no!
Our guest for
say
next
it.
week.
No. Yeah.
Our
We have
guest
a
for
guest.
next week,
We have a guest next week.
Yes.
March 1st.
Oh my goodness.
I don't remember. I think I know who it is, but I didn't know that we confirmed it or not. Well, that's cool. Awesome. We'll definitely tune in next week. If it's who I think it is, it's going to be super cool and extra special for some of us. And yeah,
I don't think he knows who the guest is next week.
I think I know who it is.
But yes, tune in next week for a special guest.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Bye.